Bowman is nomad. Got in.
Yo, what's
Surprisingly,
going
I
on,
miss this
everybody?
place.
Welcome to another
Bowman.
episode of the Tactical Roundtable podcast.
Good times.
Real quick,
New day,
if audio levels are
same old
good,
shit.
once G starts talking
Stay
and
a
stuff, let me
detective
know.
while
I
you
do have
make
my
your way to
window open
Ito
because
and
it's
the
super hot
outcasts.
in my room,
Liberation should be
and it's
easy
like
with
25
Central and the
degrees
walls
outside, so I'm
clear
trying to
of
cool it down. So
hostile
hopefully there's no
soldiers.
background
Good
noise.
news is,
But
those
today
leaving
we're
to
going to be
visit the row
talking
will be
about
released
Operation
now that all
Motherland,
parties have
title
given
update
the green light,
4.1.
including Skell's
It
blessing.
took
The only
2+
condition
years, and we
Ito gave to the
finally got a
CIA was that
DLC
you be involved
that
with the
kind
transition.
of
Be
I don't know.
discreet.
It kind of is
U.S.
where the game
forces
should have been at
cannot
launch. I
be
know we've
seen
talked
on
about that a
Rowan
number of
soil.
times,
Great to be back
but
in
we're going to be
action,
kind of
Bowman.
going over our thoughts,
The
the
outcast
good, the
main
bad, the
base is
ugly,
nearby.
what could
Do a
possibly
recon before heading to
institute
the
it
base.
into a future
There's an
title if
observation
that's a
point just
thing,
in front of you.
with some
That
of
way
these
you
new
can
mechanics
verify
and
your
stuff in Operation
approach.
Motherland.
Shit. Must be
So
observation
yeah,
point
with
the
that being
outcast
said,
team's
I'm going
been
to
attacked.
introduce the man that does need
Lot
no
of there.
introduction, the man, the myth, the
Place is so
legend, G Money
crawling with
Mozart.
enemies.
Welcome, sir.
Fucking Sentinel.
Yo, what's going on,
Continue the
everybody? How's
recon
everybody
without
doing
leaving the
out there?
observation
Is
point.
everybody
You can't
enjoying
reveal your presence.
the
We need to find
DLC?
Ito.
So I guess where do you want to start with this? Because there's so many things we could discuss.
Yes,
There were a lot of. I honestly think a lot more pros than cons at
I
this
agree.
point.
I agree.
The community, from what I see, I've been on the forums. According to when I'm streaming, chatting, everybody, there seems to be a lot of positivity flowing in the community. Like, people feel like this is a step in the right direction. And can Ghost Recon be saved? Will it be saved? Will we get more moving forward? So, I mean, I'm happy right now. The streams have been really fun. I've been enjoying it. I haven't beat it yet. I've been going very slow. No bivouac fast travels, no helicopters. I'm doing everything on foot. Very enjoyable. But getting right to it, where do you want to start? Because this
I kind
we
of
have
do
a
want to
lot to
chime in,
cover.
like what you said there, real quick. I feel like that's something they kind of missed the mark on, with being able to fast travel to enemy occupied territories.
Okay, so let's start with what we expect or expected with this type of design. Get into that bivouac issue that you have, and we could kind of work from there.
Yeah, I feel like let's if we start there, I feel like the whole premise of the DLC was you had to take back, the island of Aroa, and so you could give it to the outcasts. And then right out of the gate, you have to take down the first territory before you do anything, because that's kind of the intro to the DLC. But then as soon as you get past that point, the rest of the island is still under Bodark control, but you can simply fast travel to each bivouac, whatever. If you want to do it really, really fast, you can literally fast travel to the bivouac to start the mission brief with Bowman in each and every region. There's no consequences for the Bodarks having control of the region, other than a few things that you have to do in the destabilization missions, which are cool. I like those. It's cool mechanics, but I feel like they should have taken it a step farther, and even kind of like what we've talked about a number of times. Basically, if it's under enemy control, you have to start in a different region and go in either by land, by helicopter, or whatever, but you can't just simply fast travel into an enemy territory. That should be somewhat limited, I think. And then also, real quick, Stabby McStabs with the $10 super chat said, G got his today. Now it's your turn, A Squad. Suffer the almighty USD. Wahaha. I appreciate the dono, man. I really do. But yeah, I think like how you're doing it is the right way to do it. That's how I did my second playthrough. The first playthrough was just me trying to get through the DLC as fast as I could, for content purposes. But the second time through, um, doing it without fast traveling into the regions really made it seem like sort of the way it should be, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of how I want to put it. What do you think? Oh, there you go.
Nah, yeah, I'm good. I just make sure I don't cough into the mic, while you're talking. So, um, I completely agree. I think that Ubisoft definitely, they sit there and they think about the majority of gamers, and I believe that they assume that the quality of life, movement around the map is going to be wanted more than less. And I always say this. I think sometimes myself, maybe you, a lot of the people who follow us, especially a lot more hardcore people on the forums, I think maybe we are the minority to say something like, "Hey, we should go into this map, into this conquest mode, and there should be no bivouacs. We should have to uh, retake each territory, and when we do, then the bivouacs are there, or perhaps there was a system to unlock the bivouacs once again. And I think maybe that might be a little too hardcore or something Ubisoft doesn't want to do because they want people to be able to kind of just get in game, move around, go to the missions, play a little bit. I would say maybe there's 10 to 20 hours here if you could extend it a little bit. But for someone like myself, I could probably extend it to even longer because I am walking everywhere. But
Yeah.
like you said, someone who let's go to a bivouac, get these missions, fly if we can, knock them out and keep it moving, just fast travel, fast travel. It's kind of like the main game. You can get through it relatively quickly, but in my opinion, that takes away from the essence of what it should be to be going through this conquest mode or even the main game to allow players to be on the ground to experience what you've done. A lot of these doodads that are created, and for those of you, I use that lingo, I don't know if that's universal. Doodads are basically the models in the game that you see. For example, the Sentinel guys on a bike, the Sentinel guys on a truck. Now it's Bodark guys on bikes and trucks, but now there are burning bodies with Bodark guys around.
Yeah, there
Uh, you
is.
know, uh, you know, uh, outcasts were put up on a firing squad and murdered, and like so there are these types of doodads, and you want, in my opinion, as a developer, if you're going to create these things, you want these your player base to go through the world and see this and say to themselves, "Oh my god, like yo, look at this." And when you provide players the opportunity to just fast travel or get somewhere quickly rather than take their time and kind of work their way towards the mission area and experience what's going on outside of these compounds and their missions, you kind of miss out on the game and miss out on a lot of things that are fun outside of just going from one place to another really quick. On top of that, I'll add to your bivouac thing. I know I had mentioned this to you before. I was disappointed in the fact that I thought this could have been a great opportunity for replayable endgame where you didn't have to press a button to restart everything. Uh, Very similar to GTA San Andreas, I thought maybe there could have been a system to where if you take over one territory, you move on, that territory eventually might be retaken over, and so you would see rebel presence disappear, rebels go back into cages, kind of like a reset of the area, except you don't have to do it yourself. I thought that was a missed opportunity because as I'm going through the game and doing the missions, it would be cool if I could go into an area I already beat and then realized the Azrael drones are back, the helicopters are back, Bodark is back on the streets, and rebels are back in cages and don't control the things that I have
Yeah.
done already. Yeah, so I thought that was also a little something that could have been really cool to provide end game fluidity to where you never really have to reset the map. You just keep playing and the map kind of bounces back and forth. Similar to GTA San Andreas Endgame, if a lot of you guys out there remember that, or if you don't, buy the definitive edition now, play it, and you'll see what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, I think, and that's definitely been a huge discussion currently in the Delta Discord, about the only replay value that's in it is the fact that you go back to your objectives menu and you push a reset button, and that was definitely a huge missed opportunity. Being that this is their first iteration, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's the first iteration because this is very similar to the Wildlands system, but when you have destabilization missions that actually have effects on the open world, it's sort of their first iteration of that, so maybe they will expand upon that in a future, either probably not a future DLC, maybe a future title. But kind of going back to the fast, excuse me, going back to the fast travel system, this is where I think you're gonna have to make what we were talking about a toggleable option, because there's definitely a line in the sand, even with people in the chat. One of the people is a Jens Hagestrom. Fast travel does kill the experience, but it's optional. I'd rather walk to a location 5 kilometers away than fast travel, but that's my choice to immerse in the game. And then we have Acros G, leave fast travel alone. Just don't use it if you don't want to, as everyone has their own playstyle and prerogative. So it's definitely something that needs to be an option. But I feel like the hardcore players that want that replay value have their, there being some sort of a system that the Bodark forces can take back over the region and then completely shut down your fast travel system to that region or
That would
something.
be great. That would be
Um,
great.
yeah, I think I agree with you. That's definitely a huge missed opportunity. Is it possible that we might see that in a future
Nah,
game?
I don't.
I
Oh,
mean,
maybe future game,
future
maybe.
game. Yeah, I honestly, and that we'll kind of talk about this later because I don't know if the way they set it up with this. They could add content somehow to the story, but being the fact that this DLC takes place 3 months after the main story, and once you beat it, spoiler alert, like there's not really anything they can do to kind of continue the story unless they kind of spin the narrative, I guess. So I don't know. I think if this was going to be the last DLC, I think them having some sort of feature to do some sort of a replay value other than just clicking a button to restart it would have been
Yeah.
better.
I, and the story's so all over the place, they can do whatever. At
Yeah,
this point,
you're not wrong.
yeah, it's like whatever. If they wanted to do a year 3 where they popped up and they're like, "Hey, we built out Moa Island. Now there's just more places for you to visit because after defeating the Bodarks, they moved their operation to Moa Island." It's like everybody be like, "All right, whatever."
And that's the thing
So
too is kind of speaking on that. If you notice with the new weather effects, you can see Moa Island way better with the way
I haven't checked.
yeah, like with like even when I like fast traveled to a bivouac that was not the one on Egg Island, but the one that's on like the main island, kind of like right across from Egg Island. You can see Moa Island so much clearer now with the adjustments to the new weather systems and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I definitely think they were trying to harness the Wildlands esque thing. Just the way you go through, you get intel, you do missions, you take down regions one by one, instead of I don't even know what you would call it, but just the sheer whatever with the main story where the first mission was here, then you had to travel to the bottom of the map, and then you had to
Yeah.
travel all the way up to the top of the map, and then back and forth all over the place. Like, that was just, I don't know, that had no flow to it. And with
Yeah.
this, it's basically region by region, very similar to Wildlands.
Way better.
The destabilization missions were a cool addition because they actually do have effects. I know when they announced the DLC, there was a lot of people that were commenting on my videos that were upset about the return of the drones, but they sort of tied that to the destabilization missions. So if you didn't want to mess with them, you could just do a couple of missions and you didn't have to worry about it anymore. There's a reason to do those missions. So it wasn't just like a toggleable option in the settings. You actually had to go get intel, take down some bases, take down some Bodark stuff to disable, the aerial drones, disable the patrols and the helicopters and all that stuff. You had to do something to actually turn it off, which I kind of prefer it that way.
I think it's better, to be
Yeah,
honest. I don't
yeah,
know, a lot of people complain about it. I'll be honest, there's only really one thing that I would complain about that I've experienced and people have told me they've experienced, which is if you are trying to stealth a base and the main objective is to destroy something before a HVT runs away or takes a vehicle and gets away, rebels coming and fighting before you've even gone yellow or red is probably the only issue that needs to be tweaked
yeah,
to the point where I remember in Wildlands, rebels would just drive by an area if you were stealthing it. If you had gone loud and there was a firefight, then they might pull up and help. But I don't remember, I don't know if I'm remembering this correctly or not. I don't remember ever really stealthing an area in Wildlands and rebels pulling up and ruining it. Now, maybe I'm misremembering that, but it does happen in Breakpoint to the, and I guess outside of drones and helicopters, that to me is really what can ruin a mission for someone because I feel like the other things, like you said, they're building a structure now to where what you do matters and what you want to affect in the world. There's no longer just an on and off switch, which is super cheesy, to be honest. If you don't like the drones, get in there and do the drone mission and take them out. You think there's
Agreed.
too many
Agreed.
helicopters, right? Get in there and get rid of those helicopters. Be this operator that has to destabilize these areas and get rid of these pieces of technology that are ruining quote unquote the gameplay for you. And also, let's talk about the fact that the way Ubisoft develops their games, this might actually be like a prelude into a new game with this new technology of dynamic missions where you do something and it actually affects the world. So we might not get any more Breakpoint. This is just technology they're working on for the next game, and they're kind of giving it to us now, kind of like how they finagle the way they create things. But
Yeah.
as far as people complaining about that, I completely disagree. I'm not a big Azrael drone fan, but I have to be honest. People have stopped by my live stream and have hung out with me while I played. I'm letting the Azrael drones see me. I'm not even ducking. I'm like, yo, bring it on. Have
Yeah.
more people like the battles outside of the compounds feel so good now. There's so many more enemies. There are more trucks. There are more helicopters. I want more warfare. I am not a Sam Fisher type player the majority of the time anymore with this game. For those who want to play that way, they can. I know Matt in my community, huge Splinter Cell fan, always goes stealth, loves it. For me, I love going loud now, and to be outside of compounds, seeing so many more enemies, seeing Azrael's spot me, seeing all the stealth guys or all these Bodark forces, it feels really good. On top of the trucks where four of them hop out instead of with Sentinel, there would maybe be one or two. And patrols, I'm seeing patrols with like 6, 7 guys. It's absolutely insane. And the what I feel like they've worked on a lot since Wildlands, which was a huge complaint of the communities, was that there's a lot more to do outside of the compounds, even now more than ever, previous to this DLC. So I don't know. I think things are looking up and up, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, and that was the one thing too, is like, for instance, I equipped oh the new ghillie suit, and I wanted to do some really cool stealth gameplay. But there's, other than patrols, unless you get spotted by an Azrael drone, there isn't a whole lot of combat outside of the compounds. And the compounds in Breakpoint compared to the compounds in Ghost Recon Wildlands, I could get lost in the Ghost Recon Wildlands compounds and just play and play and play and play and play. And I don't know. I don't like the compounds in Breakpoint. I don't know if it's just the way they're designed with the sliding doors, and there's just way more. A lot of the compounds in Wildlands were just out in the middle of the desert, out in the middle of the wilderness or whatever. It was just dirt pathways to go up to this base. It wasn't all this like super modern, looking bases. I know there's a few of them in like Fen Bog and stuff, but with the new mechanics and stuff in here, like for instance, when you do get spotted by an Azrael drone, they don't just poof out of the red smoke. They come in a lot of times from a direction that is out of your view when they actually spawn, so it doesn't feel super janky. They don't just spawn right on top of you. And there's a number of them, and like when we were playing the other night, when there was like a second Azrael drone, I don't think it spawned enemies, but if you get spotted by an Azrael drone and you're near a base, that automatically aggroes if there's like a tactician in that base, and then they call for backup. Like, it can get hairy really, really quick. And that's a huge step in the right direction. I think if they had a system like this in Wildlands, it would have been extremely popular. I think the one thing that I keep hearing in my comments section though, the DLC is great. The new enemies, the new mechanics with the destabilization missions is great. A lot of huge steps in the right direction, but the world still doesn't feel alive, because you do have more of the patrols, enemy patrols and friendly patrols. But other than that, there's still not really a whole lot going on, especially if you progress really far into the DLC and you conquer a lot of the regions. Then it becomes the opposite of what you want. It's almost like you're being penalized for going through the DLC, because the more regions you take over, the less Bodark presence there is, the more rebel presence there is, and you'll go into like wolf bases expecting there to be wolves or something there, and it's just, that's just outcasts. Or you'll go down a road and go through these checkpoints that were just completely covered in Bodark, and now it's all outcasts. So Yeah, I think there's definitely huge steps in the right direction, but there might be some more tweaks and stuff that need to be done with that. And then also, real quick, I don't know if there's another topic you want to jump into real quick. I actually got to step away for just a quick second. One of my kids is going crazy. So,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, I
We'll
will be
take it. We'll
right
take care of the
back.
kids.
Yeah, I'll be right back.
All right. So while he goes and does that, takes care of his little rugrats, we can get into what I didn't like, and I'd like to hear this from you guys who are in chat right now, because I have to be honest. I know they went very far with this, wanting it to feel like Wildlands feel. I know a lot of people in the community have been saying we want Wildlands 2, all we wanted was Wildlands 2. So they bring back Bowman. They fine tune the system to where it feels more like Unidad, where there's more choppers, there's more units coming in, more QRF. And I have to be honest, the one thing I don't like is the Wildlands the music, the Wildlands score. I have to be very, very honest. While I'm playing Ghost Recon Breakpoint and I'm listening to the Wildlands music, I I don't know. It just that music was so iconic for me being in Bolivia, and certain parts of that music played at very specific times in Wildlands. Now, while I'm playing Breakpoint, these same tunes and same patterns are triggering off, but at the completely wrong time. So for instance, in Wildlands, if you were at a safe house or you were away from enemies and you would hear that generic guitar riff play that lets you know everything is safe, right? That's even if like you clear the enemy base, right? You'd hear that guitar riff and you'd know, all right, yo, everything's done. I'm good. Let's get out of here. That now I hear that play now while I'm fighting. On top of that, there are bugs like I'm hearing the bivouac music go off while I'm going around the game world and things like that. But let me see what you guys okay, so you guys turn the music off. So Matt saying there should be more enemy support coming to help if you don't kill yeah, so Matt even wants more Unidad type of a mechanic where there's even more people coming. And I agree, the QRF does need to be tuned up. Hopefully there would be a way to do it in the future, but I don't know. This might be the end of it in my opinion, but I would have loved a system like Unidad, and I have a video called the Unidad mechanic and what was really missing from Breakpoint. They did take it a step in the right direction with the QRF now, where more trucks will come, and if you don't take down the radio man for Bodark, he'll just keep calling guys. So that does work. I agree. You found it totally strange to hear Wildlands music in Breakpoint. It does not fit. I agree. Music by candlelight. I'm just not feeling that aspect of it. However, outside of that, I love I love Karen Bowman talking in my ear. I feel like it is almost as good. All right, it's second best, but it's almost as good as the relationship that Sam Fisher and Lambert have, to where you're going through these missions and you're constantly communicating. I wish we had more of this in our Ghost Recon missions and not just at the beginning or towards the end. I wish there was actually a little bit more communication between Nomad and Bowman, because I think I think overall, from a lot of us coming from Wildlands and enjoying Wildlands, she does a great job at captivating the narrative and the setting of what's going on. She's a great actress, and I think for Ghost Recon moving forward, she's a great handler, uh, being CIA and working with the ghosts, and I would like to see just more communication between Nomad and her. But it's really great to see her come back as well. You want more combo talking Scott Mitchell? Yeah, Scott Mitchell too. I'm surprised they didn't bring in a little. They didn't bring Scott Mitchell back. That's something that maybe they could have taken the opportunity as well to mix in Mitchell and Bowman, since we are dealing with Bodark. And Scott Mitchell was our handler for the Bodark missions in episode 3. So that would have been something to look into too. But also, it takes bringing these actors back, recording all these lines, let alone figuring how you're going to put it all together.
I agree
Like,
with everything that
yeah,
you
and the
just
whole
said. Yeah, I'm back.
I was gonna read some people agreeing. So I don't know if you
Imagine
heard, but
imagine the ultimate like wombo combo for the next game when we have Scott Mitchell and Karen Bowman, like a
I mean
joint ops.
that would be cool. So let me ask you a question. I don't know if you heard. Did you hear me talking about the Wildlands music?
Yes, it
So
somebody like I think you
what's
answer.
your honest
I don't even
opinion?
have music turned on, so
Okay, so you don't have it turned on.
no.
I usually have it turned off as well, but for the streams and for the new DLC, I turn it on to see how what we got, what it's going to sound like. So if you're not hearing it, I guess it doesn't matter. But
I've
yeah,
heard it in
I'm
like
just
the
not feeling it.
problem I've had watched multiple streams and then I think it was a couple of your streams with it on. It's it jumps around too much. And I think there's some bugs and stuff with
Yes,
it cuz like
yes,
you're in
there,
the middle
there are
of
definitely
like
bugs.
yeah, you're in the middle of a situation where it's like you were talking about the other night where it's super chill and the music doesn't match what's
Yep.
going on and then randomly all of a sudden the bivouac music starts and it's just like,
Yeah.
yo, what? Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
know. I
I
don't think
know.
I
I
even had
know
the
that's a bug.
yeah, I don't think I even had the music on in Wildlands. I think because I want to say it was the closed closed beta or open. I think it was the open beta for Wildlands. They didn't. That was before they had the option to turn off the in-game radios. So you would go into like stealth a
Oh yeah,
base,
yeah,
and then I
yeah.
would get a copyright on my video
Yep,
because it would be playing that music, that Bolivia
yep. I
music, and I would
remember
get a
that.
copyright for it. So any chance I get, I would always turn off the music and stuff. But I'm definitely with you on the Karen Bowman having somebody kind of in your ear. And speaking on that, that was basically the same way as it was in Ghost Recon Future Soldier, because throughout those missions, you always had Overlord, which was Scott Mitchell. Anytime you got to a certain point in a mission where, it would be like either a cutscene or something, you always were in direct contact to Scott Mitchell. It was very similar to Karen Bowman in Wildlands. Obviously, Wildlands is on a much bigger scale than Future Soldier, and I think that's also a thing that you didn't know you missed it until you got it back, I guess.
Yeah.
Because all the way throughout the Breakpoint story, at first you didn't have AI teammates, and then you didn't really have anybody in your ear, and now you have AI teammates chit chatting around, and you have Karen Bowman in your ear. It's definitely huge steps in the right direction, but we'll see. We'll see if they learn from all this. So
Well, it looks like they are.
yeah, I think if they, and that's the thing, like we're with these new systems, with the new conquering the regions things, it is kind of like Wildlands, but with the new destabilization missions as that extra mechanic. This is their first iteration of it, and like maybe they are testing something. Maybe this is going to be broadened upon with our feedback for the next game. If there's any devs in here, literally all you guys need to do is make sure that the enemies can take the regions back. If they can take the
Yeah,
regions back,
that
give
would be
us,
a good
yeah, they could add other
a good
things to it,
addition.
but that's got to be a thing.
But
There's not.
it also comes down to the technology within Anvil Next, because I
Yeah,
don't like, for instance, if you fail a mission, you have to click a button to restart it. So it
true.
seems it seems like this system that's built on Anvil Next, this is what they have. So this is how they did it. So I don't know if they are going to build something like that out to where the game can dynamically do it itself, but it would be nice to see.
Yeah, yeah, and that's to the point too where um, Wildlands had Anvil next, but it was its own little build out. Like I think we talked about this the other night. How that was kind of the first. That was before the Assassin's Creed games really took off, and now they have a lot of shared things between an Assassin's Creed game and a third-person tac shooter with Ghost Recon.
Yeah.
Could they? I don't know. I'm not a game dev, so I don't know how assets and stuff inside of engines work. If they could maybe bring some assets over from Snowdrop, or if those aren't compatible at whatsoever. Which honestly I doubt that they are. Otherwise, you might have a little
No,
bit more
yeah.
cross pollination.
Yeah,
Between the
as far as logic, you just can't copy and paste what was just built out in one thing into another. I think it has to be built out within the engine by the programmers so you can utilize a system sort of like um the cutscene system. You know how you come to a cutscene, there are three choices. Like I think that system is built out to where Assassin's Creed devs can utilize it, and then they can plug and play, you know, what they want to have there. And now Ghost Recon devs can also do the same thing. I don't think they could just go into Snowdrop and do that. If anything, maybe assets like 3D assets, of course, because then you're just importing those assets into these engines anyway. But as far as the logic being built in the engine itself, I don't know if anybody has messed around with Unreal and blueprints, and you're basically you're connecting all these systems and interweaving them together so they all work. I'm really not sure you'd be able to do that from one engine to the next. That
Yeah.
would be a little much.
Yeah, not to get off on like a tangent with this, but that would be something which I don't think will ever happen. But if there was some way to get some sort of a developer on some level, either somebody that works at Massive or somebody that works at Ghost Recon with Snowdrop and Anvil Next, um, and just maybe even kind of break this down a little bit more, because I think we talked about this the other night. So you have a third-person tactical shooter in Ghost Recon using the same engine as a, I don't even know what you would actually classify Assassin's Creed as, like a third person open world action adventure. I
Hmm.
mean, I mean, there's definitely similar mechanics, and there's some mechanics that I think you can use back and forth. But what I don't understand is why it's not being used, why they're not using Snowdrop. I know we've talked about this before, I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but you have The Division, which is also a third person tactical shooter. Yes, it does have RPG mechanics, but heck, so did Ghost Recon Breakpoint. That's something that they can just completely wipe out of the game. It doesn't have to be in there. But from
Yeah.
a core gameplay system with the engine, maybe like we've talked about, maybe it's the open world. Maybe because obviously the Division doesn't quite have as massive of an open world. It's a lot more dense, but maybe that has something to do with it. But I just feel like, being that this is a third person tactical shooter, why are we not using an engine that's fully optimized for that third person tactical shooter? Yes, they're going to be using it in the new Star Wars game, but it was made for the Division 1, which third person cover based tactical shooter with RPG mechanics. I mean, I don't know. I think there's some really cool mechanics in the Division 2 that would work really, really well in Ghost Recon, like the control point system that we kind of talked about.
Yeah,
That would
but
be
see,
a really,
I don't think that's engine specific. That's just developers creating something in their game within that engine. It's not like Anvil Next is this rinky dinky thing that only is
right,
useful for
right.
Assassin's Creed. It's just that I don't think Ubisoft Paris focuses on creating these new systems. What, like, for instance, our destabilization, right? That this is new. This is an actual new mechanic that now they can probably utilize moving forward. They would have to literally just build these things out.
Yeah,
So that's really what all it comes down to. What are they going to build out? How are they going to move this franchise forward with mechanics like this? And I gotta say, I do think this is a step in the right direction. I think if they would have added maybe, like we said, the ability to have these control points or whatever, so these regions can go back and forth, that would have been really great. But we take what we can get at this point. Who knows what's going on in these development studios? I don't know if anybody else out there heard this, or if you did, A Squad. As you know, Ubisoft is trying to give pay raises to their developers because a lot of them seem to want to be leaving these studios. I don't know if it's Montreal. I don't know what's going on with Paris. So we also have to realize that this is an industry that requires a lot of talent. And
yeah,
I don't think gamers should assume that just because these studios have such great history and are quote unquote triple A studios, we should not assume that the greatest talent works at the studio that makes your favorite game, whether it's us with Ghost Recon or somebody else with Division or whoever, whatever. So we might be getting the best that Paris can create at this point in time. I don't know. On top of that, they're being pushed really hard to come out with a game with a 2-year flip, 3-year flip between 2017 with Wildlands, 2019 with Breakpoint. You look at guys like Naughty Dog or even now Rockstar. these guys are taking 7+ years, a decade to come out with, an immaculate masterpiece.
Right.
So, you have to, it's give and take at this point with what we want, with what we get, and with what they can do within the time they get, and within the type of skills that they have.
Yeah, and then also with kind of going along that, let me see if I can't find it where he said it. Frank Morissette, the Division 2 uses the original Snowdrop, but Avatar is more open world and it's more on the Snowdrop 2.0, which I completely forgot about Avatar, and they just announced it at Ubisoft Forward, I think it was, wasn't it? So who knows? I know that. Um, well, I technically now it was a conversation that was had on the Delta Discord, and technically everything that's said on there is under NDA. But I know that there was one day where one of the community developers and a bunch of us members had a very in-depth conversation about why we were kind of like, why is Ghost Recon using Anvil Next? And then it kind of got like they wanted to know, well, why do you think Anvil Next isn't a good engine? Obviously, from the player standpoint, I don't know a whole lot about the development cycle with the engine and all the stuff that happens on the back end. But there was a long debate back and forth on why isn't Ghost Recon using Snowdrop? And we obviously didn't really get anywhere with the conversation, but that conversation has been brought up multiple times. And
Yeah, I think the majority of us who don't understand anything about game development, I think maybe we're just assuming because we're not seeing huge leaps forward with the technology in this franchise, that maybe we're just assuming that Anvil Next sucks, when in reality, maybe it's just really hard to make this type of game work the way a lot of us expect it to. A huge open world, lots of things going on within it. And, you know, we always want more, more, more. And, you know, who knows? Who maybe it would be built in Snowdrop. And I mean, let me be honest here. I play the division. Mechanically, I don't really see the division being that much better than Ghost Recon. You get in game, the shooting feels good. It has the cover system, which we know can translate between one genre or the next, because we've seen it in Splinter Cell. We've seen it in Future Soldier. We see it in the Division. That type of move from place to place cover system, right? So then the Division is basically just designed in a way that I think people enjoy that type of gameplay, to where it's very nitty gritty, close urban combat, let alone forgetting about the bullet sponge stuff. But going into these missions, the missions feel really good. I feel like something that I always talk about and that we always say here on this podcast about trying to figure out how to combine linear storytelling with an open world. I think the Division does that really well, but I don't think it has anything to do with Snowdrop, just the way I don't think what we're getting or not getting has anything to do with Anvil Next 2.0. I just think that there's different priorities, there's different talent, different type of developers, different things on the table with what they're trying to create. And what we're getting in Ghost Recon is maybe missing the mark, but I'm not sure if moving to another engine is the answer, because then at that point, how do you take a development studio of, I don't know, what are there, hundreds of people within
yeah,
Ubisoft Paris? You're going to take all these people who the past however many years, ever since Wildlands, if they still have the core members of their team together, these people have been grinding in Anvil Next, learning this engine in hopes that they can become so good that they can kind of streamline these games out to us and give us these huge updates like Motherland and give us great games. So, do we really want to say, hey, we want Snowdrop to the point where, we start from square one? It's a different engine. Maybe it plays a little different, but it's kind of the same thing. I don't really see like what the Division can bring that they can't do in Anvil Next. It's just that they haven't. For example, in the Division, enemies will repel out of helicopters. All right. I know a lot of people have asked for repelling in this game. It's not that this engine can't do it. They just haven't built it,
right.
you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to a few things here in chat. Rick Y says, "Do you think Operation Motherland just feels like an improved version of daily faction missions? Feels repetitive and boring after a few regions."
Yes.
Yeah, it kind of does, but I do say there is different variations of the missions. I don't personally do faction missions anymore. So, but like for instance, there is a lot of repeating of missions where you know you have to each there's like 3 or 4 regions where you got to go and rescue VIPs. Yes, it's in a different base. There might be more or less
Yes.
VIPs, so it is a little bit different. And then I know one of them is where you have to destroy enemy vehicles. That seems to pop up numerous times throughout the regions, but I'm trying to remember which region it is. There's one where you have to take out 8 vehicles at a
Yeah.
base, and I think there's a couple other regions where you have to take out like 6 vehicles, and like 3 of them are at one base, a couple of them are at another base. There's some that are out patrolling on the roads. You know, they tried to make it so there was a little bit more variation to it. Um, but
But
I
you
see
know
where you're
what?
coming from with like the faction mission esque.
But let's get into this because you know here's let's see what whoever's in chat. Let's see what you could come up with right now. Right? We are tier one operators in a game. Whatever. Forget behind enemy lines, faction missions. You know what Nomad does in story versus conquest. Let's just think of it like this: what can they actually do outside of a soldier needs to capture a high value target. A soldier needs to assassinate a high value target. A soldier needs to steal equipment. A soldier needs to destroy equipment. A soldier needs to dot dot dot. What else? What else could we actually fit there that is makes sense? Like even I'm trying to think. What else could they put there? Save hostages. Do you know like what else
Yeah,
could
there's only so many
yeah,
things they could kind of put in there
you know, unless
without
you want
really
to.
expanding the mechanics.
You know, I think the only thing, see hostage rescue done, okay, whatever. See, like political manipulation. See now, so now how rangy? That's so vague, right? So political manipulation. So basically, you want a system of honor, or what's a better word for that? Like an honor system, like how Red Dead Redemption is. What's that system called? Where you know you do bad things, you're a bad guy. You do good things, you're a good guy. It's like an honor system, right?
Oof, that'd be
Right? So that's what you mean, right? But that's basically just creating a story, letting the player choose, and then it goes up or down, right? They'd add that system, and then people would still be like, this isn't enough. HVT escort. Okay, so you're basically the HVT escort is basically you when you rescue hostages. You rescue hostages and then you escort them out of the base.
yeah.
So what you're saying is basically escort one hostage from one base to another, or sniping missions. There are missions where there's kill the commander. Yeah, Spectre, a morale system basically. See, like all you guys are saying things right, but so like a sniper mission, framing of lieutenants. You want to frame. So what do you want to do? You want to like framing of lieutenants. Do tier one operators really do that? You want to have a system where you're going into these bases and planting what was it in Wildlands? I think it was Fallen Ghosts, where you plant the shell casings on the one bad guy to make it look like someone killed him. Do you guys remember that mission?
I do not. That
You don't
sounds
remember?
cool though.
Yeah, so like you enter the Unidad base, you walk up to the Unidad guy, you press a button, and he sprinkles shotgun shells or whatever on him to make it look like he was killed by someone, right? But like it's cool to think about, but then when you see it live, it's like, all right, that's basically kill him, walk up to him, press a button. So it's all story driven. So maybe it's not so much that these mechanics need variety. Maybe it's just that they need to tell better stories while providing these types of mechanics.
Yeah,
Maybe that's what it comes down to. And you know, I don't know. I'm not sure. There are things like the red lasers I'm seeing right now, the lasers, the mines, adding things like this, that's great. That adds a lot of variety to when you're approaching bases and gives makes you stay on your toes. But as far as you know, these faction missions or the missions in Motherland feeling repetitive, yeah, they are repetitive. Maybe the stories could be told better, but I don't really see what else they could do other than just, you know, tell a better story. And at this point in time, I don't think you're going to get that in this type of update. Hopefully maybe in the next game with daily missions or whatever, but if anybody has played any type of game, an MMO, daily missions are always repetitive. They're always cool at first, like, oh, this is so cool. And then you play the game for a year and you're like, yo, are we going to get anything new? It's like you can't expect developers to keep a 1-year-old game, a 2-year-old game, a
Yeah.
3-year-old game fresh for you. Like, eventually, these games are meant to be played and you're kind of, you move on at a certain point in time, or you just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, Neon Matt said that the one thing about the missions, you were able to decide how you wanted to approach each situation. The vehicle missions, sometimes you can stealth them, go in and put C4 on it, and sometimes you can just go in like with a helicopter and blow them up, or just go full loud and blow them up. Um, there's definitely variations to them. I get where people are coming from, but like you were saying, there's only so many different like variations of mission types that you can do in that situation, and the game isn't new. No, no, I
Yeah.
don't know. There's like I said, yeah. There's only so many variations. There's definitely different things. Like for instance, yeah, do a sniping mission, do this kind of mission. There was like extract HVTs. There was some where you had to clear the entire base. You had some where you had to kill very specific people in a base, which really isn't that different than just taking out the entire base. That kind of is personal preference there. Destroying the vehicles, doing the drone swarms. Which one thing I did like about it was is each region where you had to disable the drone swarm, it was different. So like the first one, you had to go over to the drone swarm. It is similar. Like you had to hack the first computer that was right by the drone launcher, and then you had to go around to different computers and hack it and basically kind of scramble up the system that was tied to the drone swarm. And then there was the next one that you had to do. You had to go in and disable these different satellite intercoms or whatever that were kind of giving the signals to the drone swarm. So it wasn't like they literally, it was very similar, but they didn't just copy and paste. It wasn't the exact same mission in the different region. And then you had those, like, I would call them iconic missions. So for instance, the chain of missions where you had to go take the Azrael drones. Had to take down the Azrael drones. There was a chain of missions where you had to get, that was pretty much all of the missions, I believe, in restricted area 01 were all kind of tied to the Azrael drones because that's where they launched from. And then there was the other one. What was the other one that I was, maybe that was it. But like the Azrael drones and then the drone swarms in the different regions and stuff like that. There's only so many different variations they can do. And then with that, kind of going off of that, I'm trying to remember what it was. Yamamoto Toshiba said that, didn't I say that I said something to Ubisoft about recapturing regions and they said they'll think about adding it in. I'll be honest, I don't remember that. I definitely remember saying that to them. I don't remember them ever saying that it would be a possibility that they would add it. I don't see them adding it to this game. Maybe that's something that they'll consider for a future title.
Yo, your talk again? You're
Hello?
talking about your mic. Yeah, yeah. All right. Sounds good. You went a little robot voice there for a second.
Oh man, probably it's probably YouTube being lame again. Let's see. Neon Matt said also A Squad and G-Money Mozart. Like in Splinter Cell, there were times where Lambert or Grimm would say, "Sam, I need you to download this data and capture the target instead of killing them." And that was the thing too, is I don't think there was actually somebody in my comments section the other day that said that they beat Operation Motherland and they didn't realize that you could capture the Bodark lieutenants and extract them.
Yeah.
They just went in and killed them all, which, to my knowledge, the first, try not to, I'm not gonna spoil anything here, but the first three, there's not really any difference whether you extract them or kill them. The final one, there is definitely a huge dialogue difference, whether,
Which is cool.
depending on what you do. You get to hear, yeah, it's, I'm not, for
Yeah,
anybody
don't
that hasn't,
spoil it.
yeah, if
Just know
anybody
it's gonna
hasn't
be
beat it, but
different.
it's cool. It's kind of cool that there isn't like any actual gameplay difference, but the dialogue between the two different ways that you do it, it's kind of nice.
And here's something. This is something that I have a problem with video games nowadays, as opposed to when I was a lot younger. They made games back then to where you knew, like let's say with this lieutenant option, that you would know that if you capture the lieutenants, or not know, but if you capture the lieutenants, you would unlock something cool. And then if you didn't capture the lieutenants, you would unlock something cool. This provided players the incentive to go back in and play it the second way differently. So, for instance, for those of you out there, you old bastards like me, if you played the first Metal Gear Solid, you know there's a completely different ending depending on what you did when you were getting electrocuted. And you also got two different rewards at the end. You got the bandana if you did it one way, which gave you unlimited ammo, so you could play the game again and just go crazy with unlimited ammo. Or if you did it a different way, you would get the stealth camo. So you can go through the game with the stealth camo, the OG stealth camo, way before Ghost Recon did it. So I think it would be cool if developers did more things like that, to where gamers not only knew that there were maybe different ways to do things, but actually thought about like, yo, what if I can I capture this guy? What happens if I do this? And when you do, you get a different audio sequence or cutscene, or you get a reward at the end that's different. I wish developers did more things like that for us, instead of just like, here it is, press this button and play it again as many times as you want. Like, give us little rewards that if we play it differently and you create it in a way that it can be done differently, that we go in there, we try to figure it out, and we get rewards for one or the other. I think things like that are like a forgotten art nowadays. Now it's just all about throwing everything in the store, microtransactions.
Yeah.
They forgot how to reward players for constantly playing the game and trying to do different things while playing the game.
Yeah, with basically what you said too. Shout out to Jay Play. He says Metal Gear Solid spoilers.
Bro, I'm
Oh
giving you
man.
guys, wait, what is it? A 23-year Metal Gear Solid spoiler alert.
Yeah. And then Stabby McStab said also, I vote that Ubisoft hire both of you for development. The ideas that we come up with would be phenomenal. Dude.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I'll get hired as a janitor so I could clean up the mess they made.
I think that's the thing too, is like, and kind of going back to something, let me scroll way up to kind of tie into that. Stabby put up something a long time ago. Here it is. It says, you would think with as big as Ubisoft is, that they'd be able to communicate with their fan base better than they do. Then again, I'm not in Delta, even though, I mean, like, you know, like what's with the communication. So just throwing this out there, there is communication with Delta and the community developers. We are told by the community developers that the things that we say, and like, we listen to you guys. Like, for instance, me, I take a lot of the comments from my comment section, stuff that you guys say in the TAC Roundtable, things that G says, things that Penguin says, things that like all these different community members say that might not obviously have a direct line to a community developer. And we relate, and we give all that info to them. And that's everything from that point on is completely out of our control. Whether or not the comm devs go and basically explain everything to the regular, you know, the actual developers, like word for word with what we said, we don't know, you know? So, like, I think it would be really cool to have, like, a sit down some way, shape, or form and actually talk with the people that actually make the game, not just the people that monitor the community. But I'll be honest, if there's any developers in here, sure, I'll work part-time. I would love to be able to get, you know, my thoughts heard, you know, a little bit more, and especially with the community. And, you know, I think there has been some really cool things that we've talked about on the podcast that I think the general community would really enjoy if they actually included into the game. But the developers can recommend things all they want. It's still going to come down from the top of, you know, if they needed to extend development time to do these cool mechanics or those cool mechanics, whatever. Like you said in the podcast a while back with the first person battle royale, whatever, it got approved from corporate, from the higher up suits. You know, it got a thumbs up. Like, you know, so there's only so many things the community can do. And even like me being in Delta, I've done everything that I like physically possibly can, and relaying all of this information to the community developers. And then it's basically at that point it's up to them. I do not have a direct line to the developers, to the actual developers of the game.
Plus they all speak French. And
I will say there is one, I don't know exactly what his job title was. It was UBZ. I can't remember. That was his like his name on the Discord. I can't remember what his actual name was, but that dude was like, anytime I had a question, he was there. He would answer it like ASAP. Like, he was a really good dude. He doesn't work at Ubisoft anymore. He would go out of his way to make sure what I said actually got to the developers. And he wasn't even like my contact in Delta. Like, there's a bunch of people in Delta over in Europe. There's a bunch of people in Delta from the United States. Obviously, we have direct contacts that we're supposed to get a hold of because the time difference and everything. He was, I think, one of the contacts for Europe. And anytime I even had a, man, there was one time where he replied to one of my messages and it was like 3 o'clock in the morning his time. Like, he was a good dude, but I don't know. I think with going kind of back to that, I know I rambled like for a hot minute there, but communication definitely needs to be better. I would love a seat at the table. I think especially G has a lot more knowledge on like actual development stuff. I know you've been tinkering with Unreal Engine and like that Battlefield thing that we were talking about, you're going to check out. Like, that's honestly, I feel like if I did it enough, I might be able to learn, but that's way above
Well, just like
my,
it's like anything.
So, and then Stabby also says, and don't even get me started on mod support. Oh,
Yeah, well,
yeah. See, no, I can't really. There's not mod support in Ghost Recon. Let's just get that out of the way first. But there is, I don't know how it works, but there is something on like the back end that I'm trying to remember who the community member was that was messing around with it, but they could alter the AI, like some little things with the AI they could actually alter in this whatever it was inside of Ghost Recon. Like, you could make it so that like enemy AI could spot you from like super far away, and these different modifiers and stuff he could modify in the game somehow, like sort of like a mod, but that's on the down low, and that's gonna stay on the down low.
well,
Obviously, everybody in here knows about it now, but like, yeah, I don't.
But here's the fun. Here's the thing that kind of pisses me off about game development and things like that. This community, maybe more than any, I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of others out there that want to tinker with their games, but this community really likes options. And what I don't understand is that it can't be that hard for them to connect that to a UI element for us to go into a menu and mess with that. And I think moving forward, more developers need to do that. They need to say, "Hey, look, we have this huge open world, and some people are going to want to play it really hard. Some people are going to want to play it really easy. And we shouldn't combine all these elements and put it just into easy, normal, hard. Let's take each element and link it to something in the menu to where players can go into it and tweak it." So, for instance, a lot of people in the community on the forums have asked for being able to distinguish between how enemies can detect you and how much damage they do to you. So maybe people would want to play a little easier with the damage so they could have a little more fun, but they want enemies to see you from 150 meters out to where it's, they want really hardcore gunfights, but they just don't want to die as fast.
Yeah.
So I think developers, especially with games, open world games like what Ubisoft makes, it would be cool if they started just right from the ground level when you're building out your game. Once you create a system for the AI, connect it to something that the user can toggle like a slider, and let users kind of get more in depth with difficulty in their games. But anyway, let's move on. What else do we want to cover here for this huge free DLC Operation Motherland?
Even touching on that, the fact that it was this late in the, like what you had in the teammate experience, you had a really cool M4A1 survival that they made you buy a 24 or 2800 credit pack or ghost coin pack to get it. And now you have this full blown, really good DLC that was free. And a lot of the really cool cosmetics that you can get for free. All you have to do is play through the DLC and you get, all of the future soldier, like full outfit, individual items, but just by playing through the DLC. You get Scott Mitchell, John Kozak, and Sarah Diaz. Is that her name? Sarah Diaz? Drawing a blank.
Yeah.
All those are free in the Ubisoft Club, you know? And then you get like the Gorka outfit, all the Future Soldier stuff. You get new weapons for playing the DLC. If you didn't happen to get the ACR... Alicia Diaz, yeah. If you didn't happen to get the ACR Brown with the Twitch drops, it's only like 400 or 700 ghost coins. Like it's nothing too crazy. And then the ACR, the M110. Yeah, they're 45,000 skill credits, but you grind some daily faction missions, you go around, you loot some chests, you take down some behemoths if they respawn for you. I'll throw that in there.
For real.
But like, it's not unobtainable. It's not like they put them all in the store and charged you like, $10 per weapon. And for instance, guys out there like Penguin that had like 800,000 skill credits, saved up that he could buy everything in the DLC. Like it was definitely a much more obtainable DLC, I guess, when it comes to the cosmetics, and the fact that the entire DLC was free.
Yeah,
You
well,
didn't have to pay for it.
I think the community deserved it after the 2-year debacle of one step forward, two steps back. This was a very good faith DLC to keep people interested and to also promote the game. So moving forward, if they do have a new game or do have a paid DLC, people will pay for it. Because if they half-assed this DLC and put a lot of it behind a paywall, might have got some bad
True.
publicity. Right now, seeing Operator Drewski play this game, that speaks volumes. I know for developers to see, one of the most prominent members in the YouTube community play the game and give it that type of publicity, that's really good. And you're only going to get that if it's free like this. Nobody at this point in time, I think, is going to pay for a DLC, which leads me to believe that this is probably the end. I know a lot of people think this is the end. I don't know if they're going to continue this or if they're going to risk making content for this game, which will be paid in the future. So I don't know.
I think with that being said, if they did Mole Island and they're like, hey, it's $15, I'd buy it.
Yeah, I'd buy it. But I'm a content creator.
Yes,
So
that's true.
I can't speak. I know I just bought Fallen Ghosts because before I was really making YouTube content and I was playing Wildlands back in 2017 and I didn't have a computer, so maybe I'd record some footage on a PS4 and I had a really old computer and I'd record a little audio. You know, I didn't care. Like when they dropped Narco Roads and Fallen Ghosts, I was like, yeah, whatever. I was playing other shit at that point. So right now, you got to think of it like, are the majority of people going to pay $15 for that DLC, or would it be better for them to push forward with a completely new game where they could really get more marketing behind it, advertise it as a fresh new start? Who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, that's true. So with that being said, if they decide to Operation Motherland's it. That's the last DLC for Ghost Recon Breakpoint. You go back to Ghost Recon Wildlands that released on, I want to say it was March 17th. Of 2017. Whatever. So March of 2017.
Yeah.
Breakpoint was revealed May of 2019. So 26 months later. If that was the case, they would if they followed the same exact dev cycle, we should be getting a reveal of the next Ghost Recon next month.
No.
Which I don't think they're going to do. I think they learned from that.
Back.
Right.
Yeah,
they definitely learned from that, and I think at the earliest, if they did do a teaser, and I believe from what I've heard, E3 is on for next year, unless it gets canceled. They're not doing a Ubisoft. They might do a Ubisoft Forward, like later in the year, but from my knowledge, E3 2022 is a thing. It's actually going to be a thing. So, do they tease something there? I know there was a leak a while back about a codename Ghost Recon that was early in development, blah, 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 that came out around the same time as...
Dude, do we not even get a Ghost Recon and Splinter Cell is our next game?
That's the thing
they put Ghost Recon on the back burner like they did Splinter Cell.
And they have Ghost Recon cameos in Splinter Cell.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what if that's it? Because Look at what Ghost Recon is now. It's a half-assed Ghost Recon Splinter Cell, you know, bastard child. So what
Damn.
if I mean, that's what it is, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
what if we get because we know we're getting a Splinter Cell now. They so I would assume the E3, this year's E3, it's not going to be a Ghost Recon. They're going to want to promote Splinter Cell. And if Ghost Recon and Splinter Cell can't live within the same space because they're basically now the same game, what if they, put a hold on Ghost Recon? They try to pump out Frontline and get the PvP thing going, get people interested in that. And now they push Splinter Cell as the next thing and kind of give Ghost Recon a break. I would hate to see that, but unless Splinter Cell is completely revolutionized to be some type of pure stealth game, which is the opposite of what they did with Conviction and Blacklist, I don't even know how these two games can coexist in the same universe, in the same fucking game world because it's
Yeah.
it's it's like this it's almost the same thing at this point.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. And obviously, that's nothing has been officially confirmed about Splinter Cell yet. There was obviously the leak that says that it was a green lit, and it could be teased or announced as early as E3 2022. But I don't know. I think what other games like does Ubisoft? You have if they're going to do another Watch Dogs, which I don't think that's even.
No, that just came out last year, so we
Yeah,
have
so
another.
you're not going to see a Watch Dogs at E3. I don't think. I don't think you're going to see an Assassin's Creed yet.
No, they're
Your Rainbow Six
they're
Rainbow Six
pumping that out.
Extraction's gonna be already released by
Yeah, so
then.
it's Splinter Cell.
But you can't just have one though. I don't
Why
think.
not? Why not?
Yeah, I mean it's the one Tom Clancy title because obviously you have. I do think they're gonna finally show Skull and Bones.
Yeah,
Um,
you got to remember too. There's Massive's working on Star Wars. They're working on the Avatar. Like there are other games now in the pipeline to where, dude, who even knows about this
uh,
shit?
Also, another thing here, if you can maybe ramble for a topic one more sec. One of my other kids, my other kid is going bonkers now. I will be right back.
All right, no
Sorry guys,
problem.
I'll be right back.
All right, so let's move on to so we checked off when he left. I wanted to talk about music. Let's see. Dynamic missions changing the world. We kind of discussed that. Watch Dogs Battle Royale. Sam Fisher is old. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what they're gonna do with that. Oh yeah, and another. So yeah, then there's Heartland is in the pipeline and things like that. So, I mean, at this point, I don't even know where they can go with it. And I don't even think after Motherland at this point, if within this next year we'd get anything else for Ghost Recon, to be honest. But anyone ever played Ghost Recon Island Thunder? Oh, isn't that like DLC for like the first one or something? Fisher needs to pass the torch. Yeah, well then you're gonna get Sarah Fisher at that point, you know? Is that what you want? You want Fisher to talk Portal and Ghost Recon? Yeah, well, Jay, I don't think, maybe that might extend the longevity for Ghost Recon at this point. If in a year 3, they could create the Assassin's Creed Odyssey story creator for Ghost Recon Breakpoint, I think that will extend the longevity of the game to the point where they could kind of put it to the side and not have to worry about it. The thing is that are they going to put in the work for that? Are they going to sit there and make a story creator for Ghost Recon that people may or may not use?
That needs to come out at launch if they're gonna do that.
It's like, well, it would have to just come out already because now, I mean, geez.
I don't
Yeah,
get
I
why
don't
it's
know.
not a thing, being the fact that it's in the same engine in the other game.
Yeah,
Like
I
what?
don't know.
Obviously,
I don't
there's
know.
different things that you can obviously create mission wise, in Ghost Recon compared to Assassin's Creed. But
Well, I know the story creator is created in the browser and then it's connected
oh,
to
I
the
see.
game. So I don't know if they would have to build that from the ground up or if they could take what was already made. I really don't know and just like change out assets. But yeah. Is there anything we didn't touch upon as far as the new DLC? So what about enemies? Is everybody do we like the enemy types, the enemy archetypes? Are we enjoying them? What do we like? What don't we like? Do they feel too bullet spongy? Do they feel just right? Is the balance between the guys you could kill quick, the balance between the guys who have armor who take a little longer? Does that feel good? Do we like the guys in the optic camo? I've been hearing people on the forums wish that they had a button to turn off the optic camo guys because they hate them. I don't even really see them that
I
much.
don't mind the optical camo guys. It's the armored ones that I don't like.
Yeah, they're a bit tougher.
Because I feel like if you kill one of those enemies, what's the breacher guy, the one that runs at you with an SMG. If you
Yeah.
look where his armor plates are, it's not solid armor.
Yeah.
He has like an armor chest plate, he's got a groin one, he's got shoulder ones, but there's gaps between them. I feel like if you dump a mag of like an ACR into him, I don't care what armor you're wearing, bro. You're not gonna survive that. Like, I feel like
Also, okay, finish.
I feel
that
like
thought.
I know what they were going for with that, but I definitely don't mind the Seeker. The one that really
the
bugs
Seeker's
me
okay.
more is the Tactician, to be honest.
Yeah, the radio guys, they're
Yeah.
they're a pain in the butt.
Was-
But also, we didn't hit on another thing that was created that's new for the armor guys. If you guys get close enough, the armor on their shoulders, in their chest, on their legs, it actually shoots off. So it's a very cool mechanic that they built specifically for this one guy.
Wait,
And
what?
I think it was a job well done. The armor guys, if you get close enough to them, shoot pieces of their armor, it flies off of them. It gets destroyed.
Really?
Yeah. And I think it was a really good attention to detail, whoever thought of that and built it out. It's a job well done.
Wow.
So next time, if you guys didn't realize that, because if you're killing those guys from far away, put the game on easy, walk up to them, shoot their leg. You'll shoot it once or twice, and then boom, the armor in the leg flies off. You shoot the chest, boom, it breaks. Shoot the shoulder piece, boom, it breaks. You shoot their helmet, boom, it pops off.
Does
So
it
it was
make it so that when the armor pops off, that area of the body becomes damageable?
Yes.
Dude, yeah, I did not know that. And like what Penguin
Yeah.
says, I prefer shooting him in the head, which I honestly,
That's what the majority of us do. You aim for the head,
right.
you do a burst and you kill them.
Right.
But if you aim center mass, you have to actually get through the armor, and the armor gets destroyed. So it was a really cool addition, and I'm happy to see additions like that in the game, because it goes to show that they are trying to, you know, create new mechanics that feel good and that work well.
Yeah, and with that
And
being said, yeah, Stabby
let's
with the
chat.
$5 super chat says I managed to melt the armored guys with G2 maxed ace rifle stats. The 980 fire rate is OP as hell. Yeah, that thing just burnt. Yeah, honestly, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Every
so
time I
that's
saw the enemies, I
that's
just always go for the headshots. I've never really tried to mag dump them in the chest and see it break. So that's news to me. I'm supposed to be a content creator, and I didn't even know that. Yeah, I think Ubisoft put, or Ghost Recon, one of them put up a tweet on Twitter asking about that, about, what enemy type do you have the most issues with? And almost every single person on there was talking about the Seeker. The Seeker and this and that. And, there's a couple actual bases where the Seekers are fully cloaked, even when they're not
cool.
detected. They're walking around fully cloaked. And if you're not paying attention, or if you're sitting really far away from your TV and you're playing on a TV, it is very hard to see them. Obviously, you can turn on your thermal and you can see them fairly easily.
Wait. You could turn on your thermal. Wait, do you mean turning on my night vision goggles?
Turn on my night vision. Night vision goggles on.
Turn on my night vision goggles.
Dude, I almost, and this is, I don't know
Can we
how
get into that after you finish your thought?
I don't know how that happened last night, but I had a bug where he didn't say anything.
Oh,
I don't know how to replicate that bug.
I wish I got the losing my fucking striker missile bug for the turning on my night vision goggles.
Yeah, but yeah,
Jeez,
with the
man.
new enemies, I know, trying to remember what base it was, where I had like all my HUD turned off and everything, and I went into this base and I scouted it with, like, I tried not to scout it with a drone. I tried to scout it like with binoculars, so it was like more, I don't know, more grounded or whatever. And it wasn't a very big base. And I found 2 tacticians, and I'm like, there's no way there's 3. Like, there's no way there's 3. And with all of your HUD turned off, And I had my AI teammates turned off too because sometimes they do more damage than good. So I had my AI teammates turned off, all the HUD and everything turned off, so there was no visual or audio cues that I was alerted. So I had no idea the backup was coming until it was there. But yeah, I think it was a cool mechanic because there was also with that, if you guys haven't noticed with the Tactician, if you get alerted and he sees you, he doesn't try to engage. He tries to stay alive. He
Yeah,
doesn't
that's
just
pretty
like
cool.
blatantly he doesn't charge you or blatantly, step out behind cover. He tries to get away from you so he can stay alive to call in reinforcements. And at certain bases where there's 2, sometimes 3 tacticians, there's a whole lot of hurt coming your way if you get alerted. So I personally love the new enemies. I don't,
Me too.
the rocket gunner.
He's a pain in the ass.
There is. I
He's a
think the
pain in the
delay
ass.
should be a little bit less between when he like spots you and when he actually shoots. I feel like that would definitely up the urgency
Yeah.
when he sees you.
I'd
Um
like to I'd like to actually see I'd like for them to remove, I don't know if it's baked into these mechanics, but it would be nice to have in the UI to remove all red indicators for explosives,
yeah.
because I would love to just freaking get blown up way more not knowing something's coming towards me. Like, I love shit like that.
Yeah, and speaking of the Seekers, the gameplay that you guys are actually watching now is one of the bases where the entire base is Seekers that are fully cloaked.
Yeah.
It's the one island or whatever. I think Stabby was talking about it. And this is actually a base that at some point through Operation Motherland, there's a mission here where you have to take out all the enemies. You have to go in and clear out all the enemies, take them all out. And I was on this base for like 35 minutes one day because I cleared out everybody. I could have swore I cleared out everybody, but I would shoot my weapon unsuppressed and it would say shot heard, and I couldn't find this dude. Well, there's a locked room that you have to like carry a body up to open the door.
Oh
There's a
god, yeah.
Seeker in there. And he's just chilling in there. He can't come out until you open the door, which was pretty frustrating, but this base was really fun. Especially if you play it on a really hard difficulty and then you also limit yourself by like not using thermal. It's really hard. But I personally am all for the new enemies. I get where people are coming from. With I know there was some people like the super role play on some of these characters where they don't have not night vision. They don't have thermals. They don't get the thermal skill because
Yeah.
it's kind of a pain when you go to like flip down your NVGs and then you have to cycle
Yeah.
through the thermals, and some people just absolutely hate that. And they're super upset that you have to unlock the thermal skill to even gain access to the weapon mastery, which I think that's just the fact that you have to spend all your skill points and unlock all the skills before you go to the weapon mastery is kind of lame. But
Sometimes you see that sometimes I think that's where I think there are developmental decisions that they can't work around in engine, and so they just do it a certain way. Like, I feel like while they were building out the weapon mastery system and trying to get skill points into it, that they came upon some type of bug to where that you needed to unlock everything first in your skills, because I mean, I guess I could be wrong, but why? Yeah, for real. Why the hell would you force players to unlock all the skills? Just let them put the skills where they want.
yep,
So sometimes I think like maybe there were just bugs that they couldn't figure out, and they're just like build it on top of it to where after they unlock everything, they could utilize it for this system. Who knows?
yeah, and I guess if we're kind of done talking about the enemies, that's kind of a good branch to the new weapon mastery system.
Yeah,
Um, I wasn't expecting much. I do wish there was like a different way of just like, oh, here's skill points. I honestly feel like they heard the community saying, dude, I got 100 something skill points, blah blah blah. I don't have anything to spend them on, so they made something that you could spend them on. I wish they could have gotten a little more in depth with how you upgraded it, like maybe even make it instead of just being skill points, like maybe the first 2 upgrades were skill points, then the next one, like similar to Ghost Recon Wildlands, where you had resources, where you had to gather resources, a certain resource to upgrade the next slot, and then another resource to upgrade. Just make it so that it's a little bit more
well,
grindy, a little bit
w-
more.
well,
I don't know.
this is, in my opinion, this is what they really should have done. People want to feel like the gameplay is the way forward. And so what I'm suggesting is that when they come up with a system like this, they look more towards Grand Theft Auto, where your skills improve upon you just playing. So, like, for instance, the most basic understanding of how it should work. When you run in Grand Theft Auto, you build up your stamina. Like, the more you run, right? So, the more you use your assault rifle, the more you're killing guys, aiming down scope and moving. There should be a system to where it kind of ticks off time markers for you, or some type of way that they can keep track of how much you're using a specific weapon system, not each individual weapon. That might be way too much, but kind of how like the weapon system works now. Okay, you're using an ASR this much, right? The more you use this weapon, the more you're dead on accurate, the more, maybe uh depending on how much you use the weapon without swapping to another weapon. We could talk about how it would work and how you would build it up, but I think using the weapon system should be the way of you actually building up certain things.
Yeah,
So,
like a weapon proficiency system, like
yeah,
Stabby said.
weapon, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So now what are the three things? It's accuracy and
Accuracy, handling, and mobility.
handling, and then, oh, it's, yeah, but okay, so let's just do that. Accuracy, handling, mobility. So there we would have to think of a way. So for accuracy, you know, after every so many bullets, if you are this accurate, you level up. So, like this could be for up for debate how it would work. But it should work to where the more you use that weapon system, the more your weapon proficiency would go up instead of just, oh, I have skill points, let me put it here. I think
Yeah.
developers need to figure out how to move away, especially in Ghost Recon, right? We had the wildlands with resource system, and it worked well, tagging resources for um the rebels and things like that. That was cool. And now we have Breakpoint skill system and all this. I think they really need to figure out what makes the tactical shooter shine. And it's one, people not wanting a tiered loot mode. They want to pick their gear and it to affect how that affects their character.
Yeah.
You pick what attack gear, you're heavier, you're slower. Maybe you could take more bullets. Like we've discussed things like that. And then also on the weapon side, you use this ASR, you're using this SMG a lot. So now you start building up your skills there. And that's how you could basically build up your character and play your quote unquote class by putting the proper gear on them. So if you want to be nimble, fast, maybe you'll die quicker. There's got to be pros and cons to what you put on your character, what weapon system you're using, and if they want to have it to where there is a weapon mastery system to where you're getting better at this weapon, it should be a proficiency system with you utilizing that weapon system and not just using talent points or skill points or things of that nature. And
Yeah.
then deciding how you're going to level it up. That could be a different discussion altogether, because that's when you have to sit down and develop the system. But just understanding, okay, this is what it's going to be, and then now we have to figure out how it's going to level up that way. As long as we've established point one, where it shouldn't be skill points, it should be, if I'm using it and I use it like this, I get better at this X, Y, and Z, etc.
Yeah, that's how it kind of like is in Tarkov. And that's actually, I believe, that's broken down by weapon class, not individual
Yeah,
weapons. So if you're using an assault rifle, you're using a submachine gun or a DMR or whatever, the more you use it, the more proficient you get with the weapon. The more reloads you do, the better you get at actually reloading. It speeds up your reloads and stuff. But obviously, that's a pretty in-depth game when it comes to that kind of thing.
yeah,
But I'm happy that they actually, what I was expecting when they said the weapon mastery system, I honestly thought that as you upgraded the weapons, it really wasn't going to make a difference. And I actually
yeah,
put up when I put up my weapon mastery video, and I went in and basically tested, as you upgraded certain things, with the recoil pattern on the wall and the movement of your character, it made a huge difference on the performance of the weapon. Way more of an impact than I thought it was going to have. Especially like with the recoil control or the accuracy. I think the accuracy was it lowered the horizontal recoil, and then the other one made it so that you had less vertical recoil. And then if you paired the two together and fully upgraded the pair of them, it was a huge difference. Especially like for instance on the M4, I kind of wish I would have tried it on the G2 now with that crazy high fire rate. But the M4 went from, like, obviously I wasn't controlling the recoil, so you could see the default recoil pattern, but it was a massive difference. And I think if they expand upon that a little bit more, or make it like a proficiency system, so the more you use a weapon class, the more proficient you get with that weapon class. There's a reason to use these weapon classes. If you use ASRs a lot, you're going to be very proficient with them. If you're somebody that likes using snipers a lot, you're going to be very proficient with that. And then going forward, if you play in co-op, you have somebody that's extremely proficient with a sniper, you want them to run a sniper class. You have another person that's really proficient with close range SMGs or shotguns. It makes it so that it diversifies the gameplay and makes it more how you want to play as a player, rather than just, hey, I got 50 skill points laying around, let me just sprinkle them here or whatever, and then let's upgrade the ASRs. All right, now I want to go play with this. Take all the skill points out of the ASRs, move them over here. I get why they did it that way, but I think moving forward, a weapon proficiency system would be better, but that's just more towards the hardcore community. There is something that somebody said here. I don't think they tagged me, but somebody said that there was a survey that Ubisoft put out. They put out like those surveys back when, God, that was like, it was after the first year. They put out all those surveys, and then they said the big changes that were coming to Ghost Recon Breakpoint. And somebody said that was in the survey, whether like a weapon proficiency system or something tied to skill points. And the majority of people wanted it tied to skill points and not a weapon proficiency system. So, which skill points are easier for, like, not throwing shade, but skill point system would be easier for casuals.
I'm trying to think back to that. I don't remember it being specified.
Oh, well, I don't know either. There were so many different surveys that they sent out. And then kind of, without branching too far off from it, Anna White was talking about like the dialogue and the cutscenes, and let's agree to disagree, because she said that I'd like to see them take the Ghost Recon Breakpoint cutscene system deeper, like Mass Effect. And
I've never played Mass Effect. So
it would be more. It would basically be expanding upon and going more with dialogue and all that stuff.
Yeah, but Mass Effect could have cutscenes that look like Rockstar games, where it would be like, whereas if you say, I want more cutscenes, but when you think of Breakpoint cutscenes, you're like, no, these are horrible.
Yeah, she's one of the, because I said I want more like Wildlands. I want it more like Wildlands, less dialogue stuff. And she says, I know you're more into shooting people. I want a true story, like in Mass Effect, because the cutscenes matter more. So I get that. I get where you're coming from that. But I'm not, like, it's third-person tactical shooter at its core. It's not supposed to be a cinematic story. I'm more in it for the tactical shooter experience.
I think we can meet in the middle. Yo,
True.
Red Storm did it perfect with Future Soldier.
Agreed.
The transitional elements, the as you moved throughout the story, it was just right there. Like, boom, it went into this. Boom, it went into this. We didn't have this 15 minutes. Like, I don't want The Last of Us, but I don't want fucking, what we just got in Breakpoint, where, it's like something in the middle. And I feel like what they did in Future Soldier worked well. It wasn't overdone. There were cutscenes at the end, but then throughout the levels, there were these little like cinematic moments. Like, you could do more shit like that. But as far as making these huge sprawling, intense stories where you're trying to, get to the root of my, childhood emotions and make me cry. Like, I don't know, I don't know if I want all of that, especially since the core gameplay is not perfect. I'm still more focused on talking about gameplay and really getting to the heart of that, because then once that's nailed, then we could figure out, all right, where how can we take cutscenes, how can we take telling a story here, because the storytelling in I think really at this point all Ubisoft games, like the Division didn't have much. Um, Ghost Recon is blah. Watch Dogs was all right. Watch Dogs was pretty smooth. So I think Far Cry, from what I seen, has like really good, like smooth cutscenes. So that looks really good.
And Far Cry is
But
open world because like
yeah,
Future Soldier was linear and it had cutscenes. You had like your I don't even know what you'd call it, like your mission briefing at the start where you'd have the actual video kind of explaining what's going to go on in the mission you're about to do. Sometimes there was like a cutscene right at the start of the mission. Sometimes there were the spots like there's was the second or third mission where you're taking down the big camp out in the desert, and you get through the first section, and then you like regroup, and then there's a cutscene of you all kind of sit down. Your ghost lead's talking to you about what's going to happen at the next part of the mission, stuff like that. But I'm not sure. Obviously, Far Cry does it right, but a lot of that is more like when you start and end of missions is when you usually get a cutscene, which kind of makes sense. I'm not sure if they could expand that into a Future Soul or not a Future Soul, like a Ghost Recon game, open world. Obviously, I think it's easier to do if it's linear, but Far Cry seemed to do it justice, I guess.
yeah.
Stabby with the $20 donation. I appreciate it, good sir. He says, I know it's pointless, but on the subject of cutscenes, there were so many holes with what we already have. Walker, Jonah, Vaughn. What's their backstory? Why did they come? Where did they come from? The holes, lack of information was staggering. Yeah, and with that, I think that's why you see a number of community members say that they want the next game to expand upon that. They want Middle Eastern with Vaughn, with Walker, and that whole Middle Eastern story to kind of fill in those gaps. But at this point, with how we know how Walker ends, I'm ready for a break from Nomad, especially with this new voice actor. I mean, I don't know. So we'll see. We'll
Yeah,
definitely
well,
see.
I don't really blame him for anything. It's not like he was giving anything to shine,
Right.
So whatever.
I mean, it took him 2.5 years to put in shitballs. You know, we can touch on that now. And correct me if I'm wrong. That audio was added in this DLC.
No, definitely was.
I still haven't actually got it recorded. It's happened twice. Both times I
Let's
wasn't
see. It
recording.
should be recorded for me, but it's when you have a 10-hour stream, no one's gonna find that. But
Yeah.
I did hear it while
I was
playing.
very pleasantly surprised the first time I heard it. I was like,
Yeah,
wait, did he just say shitballs? Did he finally say it? He finally
yeah.
learned how to talk like he did in Wildlands? Oh
But
man.
so how about let's move on to optic camo. What's everybody think? What do you think?
I'm glad that it actually works.
It's
I
actually a mechanic this time, which is really, really good. Kudos to Ubisoft. It's not just an item that makes you invisible. It doesn't really work with the enemy AI. Actually a mechanic that you build upon and has levels too. So I think they
yeah.
did a great job with that and adding that.
I think the only critique would be how you acquire points to upgrade it. I think
Yes.
that was a little cheesy. Like,
Yep.
hey, there are these brand new chests where you get points out of chests, which like
Especially since I'm like at this point in time they should know like the community is just not into this chest finding bullshit. Blossoming trees for
yeah, at
real.
least could you have at least not called them points at that point? Couldn't you have called them camo parts?
That would
Like
have
you
made
needed you
better
needed
sense.
parts, like but I'm literally going to this chest to get points. Like and
Well, here's something I would love to ask developers working at Ubisoft Paris. Is it not possible to just when you're building something like this to completely change the chest into a part, and instead of the animation to where you're opening up a chest, it's the animation to where you're just picking something up? And couldn't they just make uh a cool looking model that looks like different type of parts and have them spread out across a row just like the chests, except You don't go to a chest. You're looking for specific parts that maybe see this is the only problem. You would have to introduce it to the player so they know to look for it. But I'd rather have something, for instance, instead of picking up a chest to get a weapon, couldn't it just be like a rack of guns? And when you see a rack of guns in an enemy compound, you know, like, oh shit, there's a rack of guns. Let me go up to it. And instead of it being a chest, it's just a rack of guns. And you do the same animation that it looks like you pick something up, and now you've picked up a quote unquote, new tiered loot weapon. Like, can't they do things like that instead of these generic chests?
Yeah,
Can't there be these parts all over and you just go pick them up instead?
I think Jay Jordan said it the best. Is just too many shooter looter mechanics. What
Yeah.
should have been a tactical squad based, third person shooter. Even like that, having um, weapon racks or a workshop that has parts or whatever, like an actual location or whatever at a base or something, would have been more immersive. So that's the thing is like all these companies. I mean, I haven't seen like Ubisoft exclusively talk about it because they ain't really doing it. But a lot of these companies, their goal is to immerse you in their game. And when I got to go around and literally everything that I get in this game is out of just some random box, like that's just, you want to talk about repetitive. I don't care what's in the box. It's the same thing over and over and over again. If you made it, which I guess if you did it like you're talking about, have like weapon racks, that would get repetitive, but at least it wouldn't be like immersive breaking.
No, that's my point. And it's not about it being repetitive or anything like that. It's just about immersion. When
Yeah.
you're sitting there and you're going to think, okay, let's let them find things. And this is something that goes back to they built it for one game and now it's in another, right? This goes back to them putting loot crates in Assassin's Creed and that asset and mechanic just being there to be used, right? All they have to do is change what comes out of it.
Yeah.
So instead of them building something new, they just take what's already there, which is what Breakpoint feels like. It feels like Paris was like, "Yo, there's a lot of assets here for Assassin's Creed. Let's just take what we can and build a fucking game." So they took tiered loot. They took loot boxes, which was basically Assassin's Creed Origins to Valhalla. Well, Valhalla wasn't out yet, right? And they just utilized that shit.
Which
So
I still have like
yeah,
a complaint with that. You're trying to, and that's the thing is in that sense, Wildlands was kind of its own thing with the way the engine worked in that game because like all those Assassin's Creed games hadn't came out yet. And
yeah.
like you were saying,
No, no, no.
they were trying to spin those
Origins was out.
Yeah, well, they were trying to make it so that they could pump out a game every 2 years. That's
Oh
why
yeah,
they
yeah.
started sharing assets and stuff like that. But that's where I think it comes back full circle to they're using a lot of things in a third person tactical shooter that aren't from a third person tactical shooter. And that's
Yeah,
where
exactly. Not
it
from
may
any
it may
shooter.
not it may not break immersion in Assassin's Creed because of the way they do it in that game, but in a third person tactical military shooter, those mechanics that work okay and they're not immersive breaking in Assassin's Creed, they are in this game.
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
So especially like I said
And
with the camo
they
points.
are for Assassin's Creed too, dude. Like the Assassin's Creed community was kind of like, "Yo, what is this?" when Origins came out. RPG bullshit. Guys weren't dying. It was levels to it. People were kind of like, "Yo, what's going on here?"
Yeah, I'm
Keep
still gonna
going.
completely and I've had multiple people kind of go back and forth with me on this one, but I still say that don't get me wrong, I haven't played it, so I can't really. Some people, well, you didn't play the game, so you can't judge it. But Assassin's Creed Odyssey was not an Assassin's Creed game. It was not an Assassin's Creed game. That game should have been called
Well,
something Spartan or whatever.
I think Origins to Valhalla, I think all share the same issue. So I don't think I mean Odyssey I know didn't have the unique um stealth kill, the stealth blade I know, but Origins was amazing, man. Yeah, it's amazing game, but coming from the OG Assassin's Creed games, Origins was the break point of Assassin's Creed, and the Assassin's Creed community just got behind it because it was made well way better.
Yeah.
But basically, just finishing that topic off. I just wish Ubisoft, if they were going to do things like this, how long would it take to just remodel the chest to make it something different? You know,
Like
just
even what
make the model, the asset look like it's something that I'm picking up.
right. Yeah, Neatonomics even said there that even in Wildlands, you would get those things from the armory. Like it was a specific location in a base. Each base had an armory where normally that's where you would find like the weapon
Oh,
attachment
like a
or
weapon
the
part. But
weapon or the weapon attachment would be in the base's armory. It wouldn't just be some random chest somewhere out next to a blossoming tree, you know.
sometimes Wildlands had this issue, and I had an issue with it too at first, where the way you got the new guns were in these crates,
Right.
and sometimes they were kind of in places where it's like, eh. So there, I think game developers just assume like players aren't going to be able to distinguish one thing from the next, so we'll put them all in crates so they know this is what we got to pick up. And they have to stop doing that shit. Like we're going to learn what's what and then figure it out and then from there move forward. Not
Yeah,
everything has to
technically
be
even
said to us till
Tarkov
we're
does
5.
that. A lot of stuff's in crates, but there are also obviously that's a completely different style of game, but there's also in there weapons and stuff that aren't in crates. They're
Yeah.
on a gun rack or they're on a table or they're on this or that. Like it you don't have to shove everything in a damn crate. And I think a lot of times that's because they don't want to actually have to model the item that you're picking up. It's a ghost thing inside of a crate that you just like all these chests, you reach in and it makes it sound like you grab something. Inside of the box, the art is the same. It's the same thing inside of all the boxes. You don't physically pull something out and then you get a text notification telling you what you pulled out.
Mhm.
Like that's the easy way around the fact that you don't have to model the item that you're picking up. You just pick up ghost item up out of a random chest and then it's coded to whatever text comes up on screen is, you know, the item whatever. So we'll see. But back to it, back to the camo, kind of where we got sidetracked a little bit. I like the camo. I like the fact that it's not the way they balanced it, being the fact that it actually does work in this game. They couldn't have made it so that it was active all the time. Like I've seen
No.
people in the comment section were like, "Well, how come in Future Soldier it worked all the time, and in this game it doesn't?" It's like, well, it's balancing reasons, you know. If it's gonna work like it works in this game, it works. Honestly, it works better in this game than it did in Future Soldier, because you can in Future Soldier, if someone was staring at you, they saw you from quite a ways away. In here, even on extreme enemy difficulty, you can get within about 10 feet of right in front of an enemy before they detect you. So it definitely works. Now, I think we talked about this, or even you talked about this in maybe one of your videos or one of your live streams. So they can code a system into the game that a specific thing affects visibility to the enemy. Can they elaborate on this? Instead of having it be optical camo, can it just be regular camo?
Yeah. Oh, I think that was the last TAC roundtable.
Yeah, like for instance, if you're wearing a ghillie suit, like okay, so in the gameplay you guys are watching here, if my dude's wearing a ghillie suit and I'm actually like not running around like a chicken with my head cut off, it should be the same visibility as if I was wearing the optical camo when it was active.
Yeah.
Like they're
But
not gonna see me.
it's going to take it's going to take them matching up terrain to certain it's just a little bit more work.
Yeah, I think even if they did it like just color coded, like if you're
Yeah.
wearing something that's kind of greenish that blends in with green. Obviously, if you're in a snow region and you're wearing multicam, yeah, that's that ain't gonna work.
All
So
right, so we've hit on a lot of topics. I think did we hit on everything? What is chat thinking? I think that's it, right? Bugs, any major bugs?
they fixed a lot of the clipping issues with clothing.
That I'm getting stealth animation bugs now that they fixed a lot of stealth animations. Kudos to the team. I'm seeing some different stealth animations, which is great. There needs to be some ironing out. There are some issues.
Yeah,
What did Jay plays? What did Breakpoint add to the series that actually improved it? In my opinion, just the animations.
yeah.
I like
The story didn't definitely add anything to the franchise.
no. I think the animations were a step in the right direction, even though the animations were already good in Future Soldier. It was a down from Future Soldier to Wildlands was a step back, and then from Wildlands to Breakpoint's a step forward. But as far as what they added, I mean, um, I don't know,
Oh,
man. I mean, it's their second open world game, so I'm sure they've learned a lot and they rushed it out and there's a lot of bug fixes and so hopefully the devs are really they've been in the engine working on trying to fix the shit so much that they've gotten better with the game. I know sometimes when you're trying to fix bugs in software, you end up learning a lot.
hopefully the
So
third time's a charm, if
yeah,
there
we'll
is the
see.
third game, because
Fox Zero, what's up, bro?
I kind of look at it from the fact that a lot of times when Ubisoft has a new IP, the second game is like the crown jewel of that.
Hmm.
So you go back to Assassin's Creed. Assassin's Creed 1 was groundbreaking, but Assassin's Creed 2, in my opinion, was way better.
Yeah, but that's so old. I mean, we would have to use, I think, the new models. So
Well, no,
is
I know, but
Odyssey
like
the
for
best out of the
instance,
three?
yeah, but
Is
I mean like for
Breakpoint the best?
instance, Watch Dogs. I Watch Dogs 1, Watch Dogs 2, I think was Watch Dogs 2 was a way better game.
Yeah, I didn't play one, but two was fun.
1
Three,
was very
three
bare
felt three
bones.
felt good too.
Yeah, the Watch Dogs 1 was very bare bones, like compared to what 2 ended up becoming. But hopefully third time's a charm. Hopefully, you know, we've talked about this so many times on the channel. Like I said, it almost feels like beating a dead horse at this point. Living
Yeah,
open world,
but whatever.
maybe they can institute some of the new mechanics they did in Motherland. I think that definitely would be a huge step in the right direction, especially if they made it so that you can lose regions that you take over if you neglect the region for, a set amount of time or whatever, that you can possibly lose that region and then have to retake it.
And
Um,
building upon the destabilization
yes,
mechanic.
yes,
Because now you have a mechanic where you're actually what you do changes the game world. If you can keep copy and pasting that mechanic with different attributes to it, I think that's you hit a home run. So I know we've said plenty of times power stations, electric grids, radio communications, there can be so many things. One province can have let's say a water dam and there's a huge mission on that water dam. And at the end, you have a decision to destroy the dam, to do one thing, destroy like little things like that that are in game that could change the whole dynamic of that area.
yeah,
That would be really cool. Do you destroy this one area? Do you destroy the power grid and risk the quote unquote rebels or civilians joining forces or being, kind of being like rogue agents to where they might shoot at you now because they know you've been fucking around? Or do you keep it on and now the missions are harder? I think going down this path, it's a step in the right direction and they have to keep building upon it.
yeah. We'll see. We'll see. I honestly think that I don't think Breakpoint was last Ghost Recon. I think there is going to be another Ghost Recon. Who knows how long it's going to be? I don't know. And I know there's been a couple people in chat that have talked about McBillion over on Reddit. I've actually did a couple videos on his Reddit posts. I got with him and talked to him about those because he had some really good ideas. But you know, the way the game is now, there's a lot of choices you can make. So you can play super hardcore, you can play super easy. I just feel like the general community that wants to play casually, everything that they want is already kind of there.
Yeah.
It's us as the hardcore players that want it to be more realistic, want it to be more a little bit more milsim. I honestly feel like if they were able to figure out a way to make it so that the casual players that enjoy the game as is can still enjoy it and still have, easier things, but also being able to expand it so that us as hardcore players can still kind of itch that, scratch that itch that we want from more realistic than we currently have. If they can somehow figure that out, I think, it would be in good hands, I guess. I don't know.
Yep.
So I think honestly that isn't a bad place to wrap it up. If there's anybody in chat that has anything else that they want us to elaborate on,
Let's see. Enemies. We did destabilization. We did the weapon system. We did optical camo. The skins look great. I love the skins. Alicia Diaz is awesome. Weapon sounds. We love the weapon sounds. They need to expand on weapon sounds. I think going from an M4 to a weapon that's not updated now is like, ugh. It kind of makes you
agreed.
just want to use the new weapons. So
Yeah,
hopefully they could keep working on the weapons, and maybe we can get an update that doesn't add a whole lot except maybe things like that, a few bug fixes, new sounds for weapons. Um, what else is there?
oh,
Yeah, I
real
mean,
quick, Chris, UB must buy the SOCOM license. No, they would just ruin it.
no, no.
Somebody else needs to buy the SOCOM license, or they just need to revive it and do it right.
Yeah, let Sony revive it so A Squad has to buy a PlayStation.
Oh, if they at E3 next year or whenever Sony does their event, if at any point they were like, "Welcome to a new SOCOM," and it like was like just kind of like the old games, third person, tactical, that whole thing. You bet your ass I'd go buy me a PlayStation.
Yeah, yo, hit up J Rod
Yeah,
in chat.
J Rod with the $20 super
No, no
chat. I
bomb.
really appreciate it, man. It says keep up the fight and your powder dry, Ghost. Dude,
One day at a time, guys. One day at a time. It's obvious that we all love Ghost Recon. We love the tactical shooter. We love the third-person tactical shooter. That's what makes Ghost Recon shine. Shout out to Ubisoft Paris. I know a lot of you guys, might want to shit on these people, but at the end of the day, they are people doing a job. I'm sure they're doing their best within the the confines of their home this past year, trying to update it with everything that has gone on in the world. And I think this was a real big step in the right direction. I do want to give them props. I am enjoying it. I just, I just hope they keep working on it. I hope they keep striving towards making this the best game it can be for the genre that it is. And I hope they've learned.
reconnection successful. There we go. Are you
Uh,
here?
I don't know. Am I?
I think so. Maybe it was my end. I think it was my end. Stream froze. Yeah, something just happened on my end.
Oh, yeah,
OBS
but
like crapped out.
oh, okay, okay.
Everything's
All
back
right.
though, I think. Everything's back.
Well, whatever. I just after if people have been with me from day one on my channel, and from what we've been doing here with the Tactical Roundtable, and people, I'm not. Look, I'm one to call a spade, and I think this time around, I think UB Paris does deserve uh, a little bit of praise. I think this is a step in the right direction. Is there a lot of more work that can be done to make this game better? Yes. But it is what it is. I'm happy that they still supported the game to the point that now we can, fight Russian soldiers, and the fighting is way more fun than it was with Sentinel. And I would like to see. Here's something before we end. I know we discussed this quickly. I'd like to see some of these mechanics in story mode and some story mode mechanics in conquest mode. I would like you when you go back into story mode and you realize, oh, here's an enemy patrol and there's only two guys in the truck. There are four guys in all of these trucks.
Yes.
And coming into conquest mode, people are beating it. Uh, do they want to have faction missions? I don't know because now the enemy presence is less, so maybe story mode should have some more beefed up sentinel sentinel and wolves. So if we go back to story mode, it feels just as challenging as it does in conquest mode. But whatever, that's another discussion, I guess. I don't know if people want to mix and match. I just know going back into story mode and trying to do faction missions, it's boring, man. I don't know if the game world is as alive as it feels in conquest mode. So
Yeah.
some Sentinel trucks have four people. Yeah, some do, but I feel like these new trucks, like I don't know, man. These new trucks they just hit harder with the four guys that hop out, and it's always four guys. Sometimes like the little rinky dink sentinel trucks, there's like 2 guys in them. And I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what's up.
Yeah, somebody says just add Bodark as a world parameter.
Yeah, that would
I
work.
would be down with that, but then there was also some people that were like, I played the story mode, and at the end of the story mode, it was Sentinel and this and that, and Bodark doesn't come till 3 months later. It wouldn't make sense, but it's like, yeah, but neither did the Terminator. Terminator world parameter doesn't make any goddamn sense either. But
None of the parameters make sense because none of the parameters flow into each other. There's not one cohesive story with all the live events and all of the, year events, whether it's Fisher and then Bodark and now this conquest and then live events, Rebels. I've said this on other podcasts. Where the hell are Rebels during Amber Sky? What happened? It's like nothing really makes sense. So whatever.
so, very last but not least, has nothing to do with anything that we talked about tonight. Fire question: if there's another Ghost Recon, the next Ghost Recon, whether it gets announced 2022, 2023, whatever, what do they call it? Random question, completely random question. Anybody in chat, what do they call the next Ghost Recon? Do they simply call it Ghost Recon? Just nothing else after it.
Yes, call it Ghost Recon and go back to the 90s. Start over. Who knows? Do an origin story.
That would be interesting. But if you did that, if you like what you talked about, like retconned it, all the lore that exists already is out the window.
No, you don't have to retcon it, but you can get it to the point where you kind of move into a time where maybe it was pre-ghosts and you kind of retcon or kind of create some original lore in the beginning that's not really there,
Gotcha.
you know? Like pre-ghosts, there were these units that were the ones that kind of formulated how the ghosts were set up, and you could just make new characters. And what the fuck would it matter? The lore is so bad in this franchise that maybe they could start new with something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna butcher this name, but uh, Ian Jazmalf says 4K Navy SEALs Marsoc no HUD. Yes, dude. Yes. Honestly, I I just hope there's another game. I honestly don't feel like they could screw it up title wise with Ghost Recon as a name, or even Ghost Recon Wildlands 2 would get a lot of headlines because Wildlands
Yeah.
was received well. Um, Even if they called it Future Soldier 2, which that one would be teetering. I know a lot of people like Future Soldier, and I feel like they could damage Future Soldier by calling the next one Future Soldier 2, especially if it doesn't do well, but who knows? I think honestly that's a good place to end the stream. I'm currently enjoying. I just actually beat Motherland for a second time, so I actually
Penguin says
restarted
it
it.
should stay modern, but are we even modern, dude? It's like we're fucking fighting invisible people, and we're invisible, and they're robot drones.
I feel like 2019 with Wildlands was like the time period.
It's a good one.
It
I would
wasn't too futuristic.
I
Everything was
would
kind of
like I would like
grounded.
an old one. Rough, raw, rugged. We don't need all this high tech bullshit. Drones flying everywhere. I'd like a nitty gritty, down to earth, just tactical squad based gameplay. That's what
Yeah.
Ghost Recon is to me, in my opinion. So whether it's, I mean, I don't know about Vietnam. That's too far back. If the ghosts are, when did they originate? 2005. When did they put together?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
It's somewhere around there. I'm thinking like right around even like the Kosovo War, like special ops, Eastern Europe types. They could still keep the Russian theme if they want, to where there are these kind of units that predate the actual um you know on paper ghost creation, to where like the whole unit was basically formed around what these guys were doing first. Like that, something like that would be cool. I wouldn't mind. But really, what it all comes down to is that if we keep moving forward to the future, like pretty soon we're going to be shooting fucking lasers out of our weapons, and I don't want that. So
Yeah.
I'd rather a reboot of some type, or at least a parallel story somewhere around this timeline, 2010, 2015, 2020, where they could come up with a new group of guys who are doing something for as ghosts somewhere else in the world, and we could kind of start fresh.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think it was a pretty productive live stream talking about Operation Motherland. We'll obviously see in good time if this is the last DLC for Ghost Recon Breakpoint. If we hear anything about another Ghost Recon game or anything like that moving in the future. But that is going to wrap up the stream. Anybody that's still here, currently we still have over 200 people here. If you guys would smash that like button before you leave, and if you are not subscribed to the channel, please do so if you want to stay up to date on all things surrounding Ghost Recon Breakpoint, as well as go over and check out G Money Mozart, the man, the myth, the legend himself. He's got a great channel, and he obviously is a massive part of the Ghost Recon community. And definitely go over and check out his channel. But until next time, guys, I'm not exactly sure when we're going to be doing another tactical roundtable. We'll probably just do some live streams and stuff, and then maybe at some point when it gets to a point where we've kind of played Motherland, throughout, always go back and dabble in some Ghost Recon Wildlands Ghost mode, because that's always fun.
Yeah.
But with that being said, that's going to do it for the stream. I could sit here and kind of ramble on and on, but I'm going to go get some sleep because I got to be up early for work tomorrow, and then Battlefield for me all weekend, probably. Battlefield or Grand Theft Auto. So, but thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. I really appreciate the support. But until next time, take it easy. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Take it easy, guys.
Later, guys.